So, when you're buying or selling a property, you probably think you know the drill, right? You find a broker, you make a deal, you sign some papers, and that's it. But what if signing that contract isn't the finish line at all? What if that's the exact moment the real risk actually begins?
This right here, this idea, is at the very heart of what we're breaking down. In the big rush to close a deal, it's just so easy to completely miss the critical details, the ones that are meant to protect you and your investment. It's so important to remember this. Speed is not the same thing as security.
All right, so to really understand where things can go sideways, we've got to look at the standard process. Let's walk through the typical journey you'd take with a real estate broker and pinpoint exactly where their job usually ends. Does this look familiar to you? Because it should. The whole thing is built for speed. Show some listings, create a sense of urgency, get that signature, and then, of course, collect the commission. But look really closely at that last step. Exit after signature. The second that ink is dry, you are, more often than not, completely on your own.
And that's where the real danger is hiding. The biggest, scariest risks in any real estate deal almost always pop up after the contract has been signed, which is right about the time the traditional broker has already moved on to their next deal.
First up, and this is a big one, inflated pricing. Without a truly independent valuation, how can you be sure you're not overpaying? All that pressure to close the deal quickly can easily hide a price that has absolutely no connection to the property's real market value.
Next, let's talk about the contract itself. A standard boilerplate agreement might seem okay on the surface, but it can be an absolute minefield of hidden liabilities or clauses that are totally one-sided, leaving you in a really tough spot legally and financially.
And then, of course, there's the money. If your payments aren't being handled through a process that's secure and totally transparent, you're taking on a massive risk. You have to ask, where's my money actually going, and who's in control of it?
Now, this ties directly into escrow. Without strict, disciplined rules, your funds can be released way too early, long before critical conditions have actually been met. And what does that do? It strips you of your leverage and puts your capital in jeopardy before the deal is even truly done.
And here we have what is probably the most terrifying risk of all, unverified ownership. Just imagine for a second, you pay all that money for a property only to find out later that the seller never had the legal right to sell it in the first place. Without rigorous verification, title fraud is a very real and potentially devastating nightmare.
Okay, so that's the whole minefield of risks. Pretty scary stuff. But now let's pivot and look at the solution. Let's talk about a totally different approach that controls the entire path of the transaction, specifically to protect you from these dangers.
This process looks pretty different, doesn't it? It starts with an independent valuation, not an estimate. It includes custom designing the structure of the deal and doing a deep dive review of the contract for any risks. It actively manages every payment through a regulated escrow process and meticulously verifies ownership. And the job isn't done until there's a final, totally secure handover.
What's so amazing is how this process is specifically designed to counteract every single one of those hidden dangers we just talked about. You can literally draw a straight line from each problem we identified directly to its solution.
You can see that direct mapping right here. Are you worried about paying too much? That's exactly why there's an independent valuation. Concerned about a weak contract? Well, that's what the contract and risk review is for. Each one of these protections is a deliberate countermeasure to a specific risk. It's not an accident. It's protection by design.
And this quote, this really captures the entire philosophy. See, complete just means the papers are signed. But correct? Correct means every risk has been managed, every detail has been verified, and your interests have been fiercely protected from the very beginning to the very end.
So, what does this all really boil down to? Well, it comes down to a fundamental choice between two very different models and what it is you're actually paying for.
The traditional model, it sells you access. Access to listings, access to sellers, access to a quick signature. This other model, however, protects your outcome. It's about securing your capital, ensuring the deal has a sound structure, and protecting your long-term value. It's really the difference between a simple facilitator and a true fiduciary.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial question. For what is likely one of the biggest and most important financial decisions of your entire life, is simply getting access to a deal enough? Or should you be demanding a secure, a protected, and a correct outcome?